Hello everyone, this is Nathanael Rutherford from Vol Basketball Fever, here for another Tennessee matchup breakdown here. Hopefully this game doesn't get canceled like the last one did. That first one did was for the Memphis game. Obviously that didn't end up happening, but hopefully this one on Wednesday night when Tennessee takes on Arizona and hosts them in Thompson-Boling Arena, hopefully that one doesn't get canceled. Arizona comes in this game, I think in my opinion, will be one of, if not the best teams Tennessee has faced all season and will face all season. They're currently in the top 10, almost top 5. I think they're number 6 in the AP poll, and I want to say number 4 in the coaches poll. Currently number 7 in the KenPom, which I'll also be referencing a lot here. I gotta say, this game really scares me. I know Tennessee has it at home. Tennessee's been really good at home this year, but they haven't faced a team like this in Thompson-Boling Arena this season. I think, although Villanova, I think, is also elite and is potentially an Elite 8 type and maybe Final Four type team, Arizona presents a lot of matchup problems for Tennessee, and I'll get to those in just a second. There's very little that Arizona does poorly this season. They're currently number 1 in the country in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, and field goals made per game. They're also 4th in the country in blocks per game on defense, 5th in opponent field goal percentage, and they're 3rd in the country in opponent 2-point field goal percentage. And they're also on KenPom both in the top 15 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. So again, very little this team does poorly. And I'll get to it in a second, but their big concern, in my opinion, the thing that makes me the most concerned is their offense and especially their bigs. But also, Arizona loves to push the pace, but in a rare kind of move here, they push the pace, but also play relatively under control. They don't turn the ball over a whole lot, only about 12.5 turnovers per game, while having the 3rd fastest tempo in the country. They're number 3 in the adjusted tempo on KenPom, yet only 12.5 turnovers per game, which is really impressive. They have an absurd assist to turnover ratio at 1.75 because they have a ton of assists. They're one of the few teams that assists, I think, as much, if not more, than Tennessee does. So they get a lot of assists, and they don't turn the ball over a ton. Tennessee also has a really, really good assist to turnover ratio because they don't turn the ball over much at all. And I'll get to that more in a second. But the big reason why they're so efficient on offense and why they have a really good assist to turnover ratio is because the starting point guard, Kirk Kriisa, he's a fantastic point guard. He's going to be a handful for Tennessee, and he's a big reason why their offense works the way it does. He averages 11.8 points per game, 5.4 assists per game, and only 1.7 turnovers per game. Their offense is one that is very fast and flows a lot, and they look to get points in transition. That's going to be a huge point of emphasis for Tennessee. I have to say is their transition defense in this game, because transition offense is a big part of where Arizona thrives on offense. Vols need to make sure that they're moving and not sitting back on their heels, and rebounding is going to be very important, because if you can get more offensive boards, that's going to limit transition opportunities if you don't get your shot blocked and turn the ball over, and live ball opportunities, slide ball turnovers. You're going to limit the transition opportunities for Arizona, and that's going to be huge because Arizona is also a really good rebounding team. I mentioned earlier they're number 1 in the country in total rebounds, but they're also 3rd in the country in defensive rebounds per game. So they just grab a bunch of rebounds. They also grab a bunch of their own misses. Every game this season, they've gotten double-digit offensive rebounds. There hasn't been a game this year where they haven't gotten 10 or more offensive boards in a game. So Tennessee's bigs have a lot cut out for them because, much like the reason why I mentioned last video, if you were watching it, why Memphis scared me going into that game, the same reason that Texas Tech worried me and Villanova had some concern about that game too. Arizona has some very high-quality bigs. They don't play as physically aggressive as maybe an SEC team does. So I think maybe it might not be as big of an advantage as some may think, but I'm probably stretching a little bit on that because it's still a huge advantage what I think what Arizona's bigs are. They have so much size inside and a great interior presence on defense as well. As I said before, they're 3rd in the country in 2-point field goal percentage defense. Their top 3 scorers are all listed at 6'7", 6'11", and 7'1". Those are the top 3 guys. 6'7", 6'11", 7'1". And then you have the point guard, Kirk Kriisa, who I believe is 6'3" or I think he's 6'3", and then you have another guy who starts for them who's 6'7". I think they just have length all across the court. They're one of the tallest teams in the country. You have Tubelis, who is a phenomenal open court big man. Watch some of his highlight stuff. He can run the floor really well. Has great movement. But he's going to look to draw Tennessee's bigs out from the paint and use his athleticism against bigs like what he likes to do. I think actually Tennessee's bigs can match up better with that than a bruising paint presence. More on that in a minute. But either way, I think he's still going to get his points. Koloko is more of a typical big man. But both those guys do a great job. And also the other kind of big man and kind of stretch small forwards that Villanova has at protecting the rim. They have really good on-ball defense. And then I think, if Zona doesn't have to, they don't have to worry about their guy beating him off the dribble, which, Kennedy Chandler and Zakai Ziegler are going to try to do, because you have all these trees in the way in the post to block shots. In fact, both Tubelis and Koloko have combined for 50 blocks so far this season through 11 games, and Koloko has 38 of those and averages 3 a game. So that's going to be an issue. Tennessee's not going to have an easy lane to the basket. They're not going to be able to count on Kennedy Chandler, Zakai Ziegler to, penetrate and get in there. They're going to have to shoot a lot of threes, I think, in this game. And again, more on that in just a second. I think that as long as Tennessee's shot is falling, that can be what keeps Tennessee in this game. But to go kind of back to the offense in general, and overall, it's just superb, that offense is. They've scored at least 80 points in every single game so far this season. And it's not like they've played a bunch of cupcakes either. Yes, they have played some weak teams, but they've also played Michigan. They've played Illinois. They've played Wichita State. They've played a pretty good team in Wyoming as well, and scored 80 plus in all of those games. In fact, they've dropped 90 plus points in 6 of their 11 games this season. And they've dropped 100, I think, in at least 2, if not 3 of those games as well. The best defenses they faced so far this season, according to the KenPom defensive efficiency ratings, have been Michigan, which ranks 20th, Illinois, which ranks 38th, and Wichita State, which ranks 40th. Even in those games, though, they average 81.7 points per game in those 3 games, which is significantly lower than their 91 points per game they average as a whole, but even still, 81 points a game against teams that rank in the top 40 in the KenPom adjusted defensive rating. It is worth noting, Tennessee is number 2 in that, so they're going to easily be the most efficient one in terms of KenPom that Arizona has faced this year, but still, they've put up some really solid numbers against some really good defenses as well. It's not just been against a bunch of these cupcakes and whatnot. They've put up points against a lot of really good teams. Same thing with their aggressive bigs and just their aggressive and nature overall in offense. So they love to run up and down the court. They get to the free throw line a lot. And like Memphis, I mentioned in the last video, that is another area where Tennessee has a deficit. Arizona gets to the line 22 times a game just about, which is 26th most in the country. Tennessee, on the other end, 352nd in the country in free throws attempted per game at only 11.6. So that's a big difference. That's literally almost double the amount of free throw attempts per game that Tennessee gets up, Arizona does. Finally, kind of the last big point I would make in, I guess, positive for Arizona and why I am very worried about this matchup. I don't think the big game environment in Thompson-Boling Arena on Wednesday night is going to bother them. They've already played one true road game against Illinois. They've played in a couple of neutral site games as well. And they have a relatively inexperienced roster. They start, I think, 3 sophomores. I don't think they start a senior, but they have a senior who plays a lot of minutes off the bench. But they have a relatively, young-ish roster with not as much college experience. But they've already shown themselves very well in big-time games this season. A big road win against Illinois, who's number 13 on KenPom. It was one of the closest games of the season. However, they won by 4. They also own wins over then number 4 Michigan, who is now ranked number 18 on KenPom, and against Wichita State, who is number 73 on KenPom on neutral courts. So again, Tennessee ranks number 9 right now on the KenPom ratings. So again, will be the most high-rated team Arizona's played, and it is on the road. But we've seen Tennessee's offense. They're either really good or they're missing other shots and they can't do anything because the post play isn't what you want them to be right now in offense. However, I will go on the positive of Tennessee here. I'm not saying Tennessee's going to get blown out in this game. They could, but I don't think they will. I think they will give a really good fight, especially being in Thompson-Boling. While Arizona's defense is very efficient and plays really well the interior, they're still susceptible from the perimeter. They have really good on-ball defense. The guys come with court. So I don't expect a whole lot of blow-bys by Kennedy Chandler or Sakai Ziegler or any Tennessee's guards. But can Tennessee pass the ball around enough and get enough motion going to get some open threes? I believe so. Arizona this season has allowed a team to hit 36% or better from three times this season. And in those 3 games, opponents have averaged 71.3 points per game against them. Again, I mean, it's still pretty good. It's a pretty low amount there. I think they're only giving up 67 or so points per game. And one of those was against Illinois, where Illinois made 16 threes in that game, which is the most that Arizona has allowed this season. And that was, again, arguably their closest game other than the overtime game against Wichita State. It's also the most points per game, or most points in a game that Arizona has allowed this season when Illinois scored 79. Tennessee is a perfect 6-0 this season when shooting 36% or better. So Arizona's let that up 3 times. So if Tennessee can get over that 36% mark, they've yet to lose a game this season when they've done that. I think almost all those games, except for one maybe, I think all those games have been when Tennessee's hit their double-digit marks and 3-pointers made. So if Tennessee can get above that 36% threshold for threes, I think they have a really good shot of winning this game, because I think they're also going to be putting up a lot of 3-pointers in this game, because I don't trust Tennessee's post players to have great performances unless it's a guy like Olivier Kamaw who makes a couple threes. So take this with a grain of salt. Because obviously Tennessee's home opponents haven't been great. Their best opponents they've played so far this year have been in neutral sites or on the road. But Tennessee is shooting a lot better from home, and I mean a lot better from home, from the 3-point line than away from Thompson-Boling. This year in home games, Tennessee's making 41% of their threes. They're 71 of 173 from 3 at home this season. And they've made 10 or more threes in all but one home game this year. And that was against Tennessee Tech, which is probably Tennessee's worst performance in a win overall, considering level of team they're playing and whatnot. But that's the only game so far this year at home that Tennessee hasn't made at least 10 3-pointers in. And that one, they were like 6 of 20 something in that game. But every other game, Tennessee's made at least 10 threes at home. The Vols offense currently ranks 35th on KenPom. The only offenses better that Arizona has faced are Illinois, which ranks 11th, and Michigan, that ranks 20th. So Tennessee will be one of the better offenses that Arizona has faced. And again, Tennessee's offense has been a lot better at home. Again, though, grain of salt, look who they've played at home. They've not played exactly a murderer's row in their home court so far this year. This will easily be the best team that's been in Thompson-Boling this season as an opponent for Tennessee. I'll also add, how fast Arizona likes to play. Tennessee, this is the fastest Tennessee has played under Rick Barnes so far. They've been normally in the 200s or so in tempo. You're not as slow as what Tennessee was under Conzo Martin by any means, but still they didn't play super fast. They played more of a kind of a half-court offense for the most part. This year, Tennessee is liking to get outrun more and get more in transition and do more transition buckets and transition offense. And Tennessee ranks in the top 100 in KenPom right now and in tempo. And just like with Arizona, Tennessee plays with more transition and plays more speed and tempo, and yet they're keeping things under control really well. Tennessee only averages 10.7 turnovers per game, which is one of the lowest totals in the country. So Tennessee does not turn the ball over. Arizona, not bad at forcing turnovers. They force about 16 per game, but they aren't the most pesky defense around. And I think that's an area that if Tennessee can win the turnover battle and keep it fairly competitive with the rebounding, that's to me where Tennessee is going to have to really control things, is the turnover battle. Make your threes and don't allow for transition offense opportunities for Arizona. Those are the big pieces, in my opinion, on how Tennessee can win this game. On the flip side, on defense, Tennessee's defense forces a ton of turnovers. And Arizona's 2 closest games have been 2 of the 3 games where they've had the most turnovers so far this season. Tennessee's averages almost 18 turnovers forced per game, which again is one of the top numbers in the country. In their 4-point overtime win against Wichita State, Arizona turned it over 20 times, which is the most this season for them so far. And in their 4-point win over Illinois, they turned it over 14 times, which is the 3rd most turnovers they had this season. So Arizona don't turn the ball over too much usually, but if you can get them to turn it over, I think Tennessee can keep it close like Wichita State and like Illinois did. And it's being at home. I think there are things I think Tennessee can definitely do to win this game. I don't feel great about it though. Lastly, I mentioned this earlier, and again, I may be stretching a little bit on this one. even though Arizona's bigs are very good, especially offensively, but even also defensively, they're just really good players. This matchup is a matchup with Tennessee's bigs that I think like it may not be as big of an advantage on for Arizona that you would see on paper, because I think Tennessee's bigs can match up a little better. Tennessee's bigs can move. They're not these slow lumbering guys, with the exception of probably Urosh. Tennessee's guys, Fulkerson, Olivier, and Brendan Huntley Hatfield, they can move up and down the court. They're guys that not the most traditional power forwards / centers, especially Olivier and Brendan Huntley Hatfield can shoot the ball too. I think that Tennessee matches up a little bit better with the bigs of Arizona than people may think about when they look at the matchup on paper. But still, the bigs concern me. There's a lot about this Arizona team that it really concerns me. I think Arizona wins this game. I would not be shocked at all if Tennessee wins it. I just think that Arizona is a team that they've been a very surprisingly good team. I thought they'd be okay. I thought Tennessee would be the favorite coming in this game. I thought Arizona would be like a fringe top 20 team. They're legitimately a top 10 team. Unless they collapse down the stretch and Pac-12 play or something happens, they're a really good team. They're full of international players. They have a really cool, diverse skill set. They move up and down the court so well. Tommy Lloyd has done a great job in his first year there as head coach, and he's kind of brought that Gonzaga, he's an assistant at Gonzaga, kind of brought that Gonzaga mentality to this Arizona team, and they've really embraced it, playing fast and loose, but not like loose in a sense where they give them the ball away a lot, just fast and loose in terms of, doesn't seem like there's a lot of pressure on them. It seems like they know what they're doing, they've bought in a lot. I think they're a really good team. Again, I think this could be the best team Tennessee faces all season, at least in the regular season. So it's going to be a tough one. If you're going to the game, I could definitely be loud, because I think Tennessee home court advantage is obviously, I think, in my opinion, one of the best in the country. Probably better than Illinois. I don't know how big their court is or anything like that, but this can be, Thompson Bowling can be a huge asset for Tennessee. So if you're going to the game, be loud, be there. Make sure that when Arizona goes to the line, because they'll go to the line pretty often, make sure that you're making as much noise as you can to kind of disrupt them. But it'd be a fun game, I think. I think there's going to be a lot of points. It wouldn't shock me to see both teams get into the 80s in this one. If Tennessee's shots are falling, if Tennessee's shots aren't falling, look out, because I don't know that their defense is going to be able to slow down Arizona's offense too much. Arizona has scored, again, 80 points in every game they've played this year, even against some pretty good defenses. So Tennessee is going to be the best defense on paper that Arizona's faced. Is that going to be enough for Tennessee to win if their shots aren't falling? I don't know, but thank you all so much for watching. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel while you're here, comment down below with your thoughts on the game. We would really appreciate it. I'm with Vol Basketball Fever. You can subscribe to our podcast everywhere podcasts are found. Again, subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate that. You can turn on notifications, and I guess I gotta say all the YouTube stuff. Smash that like button. Do what you gotta do. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you.